Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Ciara Revin, and this is the Sunday 7.
On this week's award-winning Sunday 7, we speak to the person taking Facebook to court, catch up with Will Guyatt about what tech should be on your Christmas list, and hear about a fight between an Abba co-founder and AI. Plus, we learn about the impact of face blindness. If you're enjoying our episodes, please do like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, we're here 7 days a week with the 7 biggest stories you need to know every morning at 7 a.m. on the Smart 7. Before we start, though, it was on this day in 2010 that SpaceX took a critical step in commercial space exploration with its maiden flight of their Dragon capsule. The mission involved over 3 hours of testing to prove the spacecraft's design and test it for future passengers and cargo. The launch made them the first private company to launch and recover a spacecraft from orbit and took us all one step closer to space exploration ourselves. 2024 has seen big tech face off with big law all across the globe. Google faces serious pressure from the US government, who are telling it to sell its browser Chrome amid a long-running investigation into how search has been monopolised by parent company Alphabet. There's also a legal action happening in the UK against Meta, which could have a huge impact on how our personal data is used by tech companies. The case, which will proceed to trial soon, could see Facebook users in the UK receive a share of a massive £2.1 billion in compensation. Competition law expert Dr. Liza Lovdahl Gormsen is leading the case involving an estimated 46 million consumers. She's arguing that between 2015 and 2019, Meta made users pay for Facebook with their personal data. She spoke to us about how this worked and why she believes it was unfair.
It's quite clear that when we're talking about paying for Facebook, that people think about this in monetary terms. But what people are actually paying here is their highly valuable personal data. And by doing that, they are paying quite a high price in return for being on the Facebook platform. And I argue that because users has to sign up to the take it or leave it terms and conditions, that Facebook is abusing its dominant position in the market for social media.
The case could lead to billions in compensation. How has that figure worked out, and what could it mean for individual Facebook users?
Well, I have a team of great economists who has worked out how they came to that number of 2.1 billion over a period of time. But what it would mean for the individual users is probably more important in this case, which is around between 44 to 66 pounds excluding interest. So when you put on interest, that's somewhere along in the range of 56 to 84 pounds per user.
This is one of the first UK cases to tackle data rights through compensation law. How could the outcome change the rules for big tech here?
Well, it's quite clear if I'm successful with this, they really carefully need to think about their data practices, and they carefully need to seek consent. And I'm not talking about just the take it or leave it terms and conditions that no users ever read, but seriously think about getting the consent and getting users to understand what they're actually signing up to and what kind of data they're giving up. And that would be a significant sea change.
What should Facebook users know if they're included, and what's next for the case?
We are now going into a period of discovery where we are asking Facebook to give us a certain number of documents, and then we will go to full trial. And users are automatically part of this claim unless they opt out. So obviously, in order to give them a chance to opt out, they can visit our website, which is facebookclaim.co.uk, and they then have to opt out before the 5th of March 2025.
It's been another busy week in the world of tech, with Mark Zuckerberg joining the Mar-a-Lago party as tech billionaires do their best to cozy up to Donald Trump. This week has also seen news about Google's DeepMind, a U-turn from Telegram, and some decidedly odd new Jaguar cars. When it comes to strangely shaped tech, there's only one man we can trust to push the right buttons, and that's the Smart 7's tech guru, Will Guyatt. Hey Will, so do you think Mark Zuckerberg will end up as Donald Trump's head of Wi-Fi, or something equally ridiculous?
As the Lovin' with Elon Musk shows, anything is possible in the wild world of Donald Trump. So it was only natural that both Zuck and Trump would want to meet for dinner. Things have been easing between the two, mostly since Zuck largely kept Meta out of this year's election, with political content not being spread by Facebook and Instagram's algorithms. It would appear that Zuckerberg is looking to have a similar kind of influence over tech policy like his one-time potential cage fight rival Elon Musk currently has over the president-elect. Zuckerberg's number 2 in charge of Meta, Nick Clegg, himself a former UK Deputy Prime Minister, said, "Mark's very keen to play an active role in the debates that any administration needs to have about maintaining America's leadership in tech, and particularly in the pivotal role that AI will play. So maybe he's going to be Trump's AI czar or something, who knows?"
On a more serious note, Telegram seems to be cleaning up its act. What's going on?
From what we can see, good news here. After years of ignoring calls to get involved in child protection schemes, the messaging app Telegram has finally agreed to work with the Internet Watch Foundation charity to stop its platform being used to spread child sexual abuse material. IWF's tech is pretty much used by every major online service to help them detect and remove this material and stop it spreading online at source. Telegram had previously said it had nothing to do with what was shared on its platform and users could do what they liked because they would never interfere with what they chose to share. Thankfully, that appears to be changing.
This is related to founder Pavel Durov's arrest in France.
Of course, Telegram's not linking the two together, but the platform's interest in following many well-established practices of its rivals only came about after the boss was accused of failure to cooperate with law enforcement over drug trafficking, child sexual content and fraud on his platform. Telegram's also promised to improve its reputation and work with the wider tech community. What a difference an arrest makes.
And Google DeepMind says we won't need Windows for much longer. Is that right? It's now able to AI weather forecasts.
Well, it could be soon time to forget traditional weather forecasts because Google says its new system built in DeepMind is now 20% more accurate than the world's best and most established weather model, ENS, which is used worldwide. They say the next couple of years they're going to continue to develop GenCast to support traditional forecasts rather than replace them. Even in this early stage, they reckon it provides greater clarity around heat waves and cold snaps and will help energy companies predict how much power they can generate from solar or wind farms. Seems pretty advanced.
We've seen a lot of talk about the Jaguar redesign, and this week they unveiled new all-electric cars. Honestly, what do you make of them?
From the adverts that literally got one half of society frothing at the mouth to marketing experts claiming it was the end of the 90-year-old car company, it's certainly been an interesting few weeks for Jaguar. The Type 00 is exactly what a concept car should be, getting attention while the manufacturer tries to turn the dream into reality. The car is long, bulky, and like nothing I've ever seen, and I love it. It looks like it's come straight from out of space, and it's what I imagine those seeing the Jaguar Type E would have first seen back in 1961. I think the car is big, brave, and bold, and exactly the type of premium-priced car they should be creating in 2025 if they want to stand out from all the other companies. Whether it sells anything or not, let's wait and see.
And finally, as Christmas gets closer, it's time for the possibly annual Will Guyatt Christmas gift guide. We asked you to go absolutely mad and then also do some sensible tech. What have you got in your sack, Will?
Ho, ho, ho. Well, if you're going mad, how about the Pod 4 Ultra? That's a £4,000 smart mattress from 8 Sleep. It's a mattress that links to an app, charges you £300 a year for a subscription, and allows you to temperature control both sides of the bed independently from 12 degrees C to a highly toasty 43 degrees C. It also monitors and tracks your sleep and does loads of cool things that you would expect from a pricey mattress. Also this Christmas, I'm upgrading my PlayStation 5 to the PlayStation 5 Pro. It's far from cheap at £699, but it offers a visual boost for many of the biggest games on the platform, and if you've got an 8K TV like me, you can now go one better than Ultra HD 4K. But at the other end, the slightly cheaper bit, and this still isn't completely cheap, I've gone for the Ember Smart Mug. They're selling like crazy despite costing around £150. And what the hell does a smart mug do, I hear you ask? Well, it allows you to keep your coffee at an exact temperature for up to 90 minutes. That's good for me. May your stockings be full of gadgets this Christmas.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, we meet a first of its kind robot that could mean no more chores around the house. We've all had trouble putting a face to a name, particularly at Christmas parties, but there's actually a proper condition called prosopagnosia, which is also known as face blindness, which means you struggle to recognise people's faces. Now, researchers suggest that face blindness could be classified as a distinct impairment rather than a difficulty even in its milder forms. Studies at Bournemouth University and Brunel University hinted that around 2% of the population could have the condition. They identified how symptoms range between people from not being able to recognise the people you see every day to struggling to recognise unfamiliar faces. Professor Sarah Bate led the study and spoke to News Talk about who they work with and how people with the condition have to adapt.
Very recently, we worked with a family where there were 5 adult siblings who were all affected. Their mother, who'd actually passed away by the time we met the family, so we couldn't actually test her, but they suspected she had face blindness before them. And then some of their children were also affected. In a lot of other people, there is no family connection. So it's something which just seems to just develop abnormally. So for whatever reason, a person doesn't develop the skills to recognise faces. So we're probably looking at about a 50-50 split in terms of the cases that we see, which we believe are genetic, and those which seem to be just atypical development. We hear the most remarkable stories from people with face blindness about how they cope with the condition in everyday life. One really fascinating one, I met a woman who told me she recognises people by their wedding rings. She said it's the most stable thing because it's one thing people don't tend to take off or change about their appearance. So they might change their hairstyle, or they might, swap their handbag or change their clothes or whatever, but wedding rings tend to be always there. And she found that a really good cue. Yeah, different ranges of experiences, but whether those are genuine differences in ability or people's ability to cope is what we're really looking at.
Conservative peer Lord Frost opened up on the BBC's World at One about his experience with the condition and how difficult it can be to recognise even familiar faces.
For me, it's just a way I've kind of got used to it. It's useful quite often for colleagues to know I have it, because obviously it can sometimes be quite awkward and they wonder what's going on, and it's easier to explain. I'm cautious in introducing people unless I'm really confident I know who they are, because sometimes I do get it wrong, and then obviously it is quite awkward.
Robots in our homes might sound like science fiction, but a first of its kind has been specifically created to help with all of the household tasks you hate. Neo, a humanoid robot designed in Norway, gives us a glimpse at how AI might help us in a more hands-on way, with chores like laundry, feeding our pets, and making us some morning coffee. It could be on the market as soon as next year, and can even manage running at a brisk 7.5 miles per hour. Bernt Bornich is the CEO of 1X, the company behind the domestic droid.
If you're somewhere else, you can actually teleport into your robot and do small things in your house that maybe you forgot to do, right? Like feed the cat or close the window, check that everything's okay.
While robots doing your repetitive jobs might sound amazing, the price tag for advanced tech is out of reach for most households. Then there's privacy concerns with the cameras and sensors used for navigation. And of course, real life can be unpredictable and the robot might struggle with tasks beyond its programming. These robots were designed to create an abundant supply of labour and apply AI to caregiving and assistance around the home. They could be life-changing for people with mobility and grip needs. Yang is the VP of AI and programs the robots to provide practical help.
I've always been interested in robotics and AI. So as a small kid, my favourite movie was The Iron Giant. That was not a compliant robot, by the way. A compliant robot is a safe and soft robot. The Iron Giant was very large, very stiff, and very dangerous. So I had the fortune of being able to join the Google Robotics Lab really early in 2016. Where I spent 6 years at Google Brain studying how to make general-purpose robots learn tasks. I came to the realization that the algorithms really would scale. The deep learning really was the right way to solve robotics. However, the limitation was the hardware. In order to really get to the millions of tasks, you needed a hardware form factor that was safe enough for the home and also could reach everywhere a human body could reach. And, the most obvious form factor for that is a human body. Around 2022, I met Bernt, and we realized that if we could merge the compliant humanoid form factor with a very general-purpose AI strategy, that could solve lots of tasks and allow us to push into general-purpose, unstructured environments like the home.
Still to come in the Sunday 7, scientists are modifying bugs to stop the spread of disease, and Abba aren't happy about AI.
Right after this.
The holidays are all about sharing with family. Meals, couches, stories, grandma's secret pecan pie recipe. And now you can also share a cart with Instacart's Family Carts. Everyone can add what they want to one group cart from wherever they are, so you don't have to go from room to room to find out who wants cranberry sauce, or whether you should get mini marshmallows for the yams, or collecting votes for sugar cookies versus shortbread. Just share a cart, and then share the meals and the moments. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
Welcome back.
Abba co-founder Björn has warned that generative artificial intelligence has the power to cause great damage to musicians.
There will always be fans who want more than just to listen to a song on the radio. And for them, I think the human story will still remain very, very important. But for people listening to playlists, passive listening, there might be 1 or 2 AI-generated songs that they love, and there's nothing we can do about that.
A report by the International Confederation of Societies of Authors and Composers showed that the technology risks costing artists about 1/5 of their revenues by 2028. The key worry is that AI-generated music will be trained on and then replace the work that creatives do. Earlier this year, Spotify CEO Daniel Ek said the platform may not be able to recognise if uploads were AI-generated or not.
We wouldn't know what tools you're using in creating your music. We get them as audio files at the end of it, and we wouldn't know how that was generated. Every musician learned on the back of every other musician that passed. So the fact whether it's trained on or not, I respect that that is an ongoing debate, but I think the more important one is the output of that training. We want it to be really new IP, not something that's drafting off someone else's name and likeness. When it gets too close, where it's confusingly similar, what it is, that's kind of where I draw the line.
This week has seen policymakers, global institutions and businesses all head to Saudi Arabia for a critical COP16 UN meeting. The Convention to Combat Desertification have come together to talk about how the climate crisis is linked with nature, land and biodiversity. Achim Steiner is from the United Nations. He explains why discussing these topics are so important.
The bad news is we are destroying land all across the planet. We are losing every year over 100 million hectares of arable land for agriculture at a time when we have more and more people who need more and more food produced. But here in Riyadh, we're also discussing the link between desertification, land degradation, and also drought. And in many ways, it is creating more and more problems for people.
Saudi Arabia's Minister of Agriculture, President Abdulrahman Alfadley, has ambitious outcomes for the conference.
We look forward to intensifying action under this convention in order to face the challenges and promote integration between various international environment organizations, conventions, namely the Rio on biodiversity and climate change, in order to achieve ambitious outcomes, in order to limit land degradation, reduce drought, and to achieve the humanity and the welfare of humanity all over the world.
The United Nations top court, the International Court of Justice, has opened up a landmark case in The Hague to determine how international law applies to climate change. The legal opinion of this unprecedented hearing could significantly shape global climate action. Filed by a group of island nations, it addresses concerns about global warming, like rising sea levels and how they impact vulnerable countries. Ralph Regenvanu, Vanuatu's special envoy for climate change, spoke about how the climate crisis threatens our very existence.
Our peoples have built vibrant cultures and traditions over millennia that are intimately intertwined with our ancestral lands and seas. Yet today, we find ourselves on the front lines of a crisis we did not create. A crisis that threatens our very existence and that of so many other peoples who have come in unprecedented numbers to be heard by this court.
Mosquitoes kill more people than any other creature in the world, and it's proven difficult to control or prevent their spread and the disease they carry. In a new breakthrough, a biotech firm has genetically modified mosquitoes to stop them from passing on dengue fever. Researchers focus on modifying the genetics of male bugs so that the number of biting females can be reduced. The process sees the tweaked mosquitoes released into the population, and when they mate, they spread the genetic modification. Dr. Neil Morrison conducted the world's first field trials with biotech insects and now leads Oxitec's malaria programs. He explained how this technology could be used elsewhere too.
Oxitec is also building a parallel solution that employs a naturally occurring bacterium called Wolbachia that, when introduced to the mosquito, reduces its ability to spread diseases like dengue. And so, in parallel with our friendly mosquito approach, we are also starting to build a new program to reduce the ability of mosquito populations to spread dengue. And we're just getting started in the malaria space. So, in partnership with the government of Djibouti in the Horn of Africa. We've just started this year releasing friendly mosquitoes that target a species called Anopheles stephensii, which is invasive in Africa. It arrived in the Horn of Africa in 2012 and has since caused an explosion of urban malaria. And so we're taking the first steps towards delivering sustainable impact against that specific mosquito.
The CEO of Oxitec, Gray Fradson, says there could be uses for this kind of technology in relation to climate change in the future too.
We're focused on mosquitoes, on a number of mosquito species that are affecting populations around the world. But we're also, and it's less known, that we are working on a range of agricultural pests and livestock pests. And our smart teams are engineering new solutions that will, for example, help control cattle tick, or the Asian blue tick, which is one of the livestock industry's most devastating pests.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.